In Japan, they're called yokai. In the Philippines, there's something far darker, the Aswang. Some are just unsettling, others are pure terror, and the deeper we go, the worse they get. Stay with me. The last one is the kind of horror that'll haunt your dreams. We'll start with the tikpalang, best described as slender man with a horse's head. No doubt he does appear grotesque and frightening. Meet this guy on a jungle path and you could pass out from shock. Fortunately, you probably won't meet him because he likes to work from the shadows. Despite his fierce appearance, he's not dangerous, unless of course you make him angry. Try not to do that. I'll tell you how to avoid that serious mistake a little later. Most of the time, he simply wants to mess with you, just for fun. When you're traveling along a woodland or jungle path, you may find yourself wandering in circles. Now, this can happen even if you know the way, know where you want to go, and have been there dozens of times before. Doesn't matter. When the tikbalang wants to confuse you, then you will be confused. It's what they do. You could wander in circles for days, that is, if you don't have enough sense to realize what's happening. Then you have a few options. One is to turn your shirt inside out. That can break the tikbalang's spell. If you're religious, saying a prayer sometimes works. And if all else fails, simply stop and politely ask the tikbalang to let you go. Usually one of the three will work. In some traditions, it's even possible to turn the tables and make the tikbalang your royal servant. All you have to do is sneak up on him and pluck 3 golden hairs from his mane. You do that and he will obey your commands. If you fail, however, see the try not to make him mad part as I mentioned before. There would be serious consequences. There's also another way you could anger the tikbalang. In some regions, he's still a trickster but also a guardian of the forest, like the Scots ghillie do. Cutting down a sacred tree, excessive hunting or fishing, or otherwise disrespecting the forest could all trigger the tikbalang's wrath. As with the attempt to pluck 3 golden hairs from his mane, it's up to you to decide. Personally, I would advise against it. And that's the mostly benign tikbalang. Our next Aswang, not so benign. The Sigbin resembles a skinny dog with large ears almost like bat wings. It walks backwards, with its head lowered between its legs. At first glance, it may look weird and silly, but harmless, in which case you need a second glance, and quick. The Sigbin is a vampiric monster, and it doesn't even have to attack you directly to drain your blood. All it really needs is your shadow. During the day, it walks in human form, possibly the better to scope out its victims. Only someone like a shaman or a babalan, the folk spirit healers and priestesses who know the old ways, would be able to see it for what it truly is. It's most likely to prowl on the night of a new moon, and it can seek out children, cattle, or fully grown humans with equal ease. When seeking victims, however, it's not always to drain their blood. In some instances, the Sigbin does not work alone. It can be in the service of a mankukalam, a witch. At her command, it will steal infants or bring misfortune, as if having your blood stolen wasn't bad enough. If country folk suspect that a Sigbin is around, they will sometimes leave out offerings to bribe the creature to leave them alone. Probably worth a try. In rare instances, the Sigbin is said to be the guardian of a treasure or sacred space. In that case, only the very clever or very brave can approach it without incurring its wrath. I suppose if you really want to find out if you fall into either category, this would be the definitive test. If you're already well aware of how clever you are, however, you'll probably know to keep far away from a Sigbin. Now, as lethal as it can be, a Sigbin is still not as powerful or dangerous as our next night-stalking monster. Silly name, but I wouldn't laugh if I were you. Of all the creatures mentioned here so far, the Wak-Wak is the true predator. It doesn't guard forests or treasures, it doesn't carry out a witch's whims, and it can't be bought off with offerings. It feeds, and human flesh and blood are its food. Depending on the region, the Wak-Wak will appear as either a gigantic dark bird or a bat-winged creature with some human and some bird-like features. It is named after the sound its wings make as it cuts through the night sky. In some accounts, when the sound is faint, the whack-whack is simply passing by. If it suddenly becomes loud, then it's already too late and the whack-whack has you in its sights. The sound of its wings may awaken a sleeper, but by then it already has you. It's especially fond of pregnant women, which it tears apart with its sharp talons to feed on the unborn and the blood of the mother. If no appropriate mothers are around, anyone else will do. Like the Sigmund, the whack-whack can appear completely human, and only someone trained in the old skills can spot them. No one really knows why they appear as humans, especially during the day. Possibly to scope out potential victims, but that's just a guess. In some traditions, salt and garlic and prayer are supposed to keep a whack-whack at bay. Fire and noise are believed to work as well. Keeping a fire burning nearby and salt and garlic around the windows and entrances are good ideas, especially if there's a pregnant woman in the house. While technically not as dangerous as a whack-whack, for sheer ghastliness, it's hard to beat our next Aswang. The Bao is a ghoul and a corpse thief. It delights in stealing the bodies of your deceased loved ones out of their coffins, leaving a chunk of banana tree magically disguised to resemble their body in its place. Its one redeeming feature is that the Bao seldom attacks anyone currently alive. Too fresh flesh is kind of disgusting so far as the Bao is concerned. These ghouls are pretty easy to spot because they closely resemble the corpses they feed on. It is gaunt and corpse-like, with rotting flesh and glowing eyes. By some accounts, it can shapeshift into a normal-appearing human form like any other Aswang. But if it's anywhere near you, odds are you'll know it by the overpowering stench. The Bao uses its stench as a weapon, as its vile odor can overpower and disorient humans, thus making stealing the guest of honor at their own funeral that much easier. Now, assuming they fail to steal the corpse early on, it's really no problem. They are unnaturally strong, which makes digging up the grave later no problem at all. Aside from their magic stench, their main ability is the magic that lets them disguise a log as your dearly departed while they carry the corpse away for their feast. Especially in times past, Filipino villagers were diligent in guarding their cemeteries to keep the Bao away. The Bao is a vile and nasty critter, no doubt, but at least it doesn't use its victims' own kindness and decency against them. That's the domain of our next monster. The Chianak is particularly nasty, and I say that having just told you about the Bao. But at least the Bao is honest about what it wants and what it does. The Chianak uses our best impulses against us. If you're one of those folk who don't care about anyone or anything other than yourself, well, good news, you're safe. Unlike some Aswang, the Chianak doesn't stalk its human prey. Rather, it lures them, and it works like this. A person walking on the trail through the woods will hear the cry of a child. Thinking there's some infant lost or abandoned in the woods, they will naturally go looking for it. When they've been lured far enough off the trail and away from any other people who might be in the area, they find the source, what looks like an abandoned baby lying beside a tree. Naturally, they go to the rescue, and the Chianak strikes. It transforms into its real shape, which is a sharp-toothed monster that immediately eats the would-be rescuer. Now, if you were to hear that cry, understand that might be a Chianak, and yet cannot ignore the possibility that a real child might need help, there are some precautions you can take. Carry salt and garlic, two things the Aswang cannot abide. Reversing your shirt, as you would with a tekbalang, is another tactic that could work. Another thing you can do is if the Chianak reveals itself soon enough is you simply curse at it. Note I did not say curse it, but rather curse at it. Anything will do. Traditional rude words, invective, whatever comes to mind, just be loud about whatever you do. Oddly enough, it's a strategy that is said to be effective against Western ghosts as well. It's also believed to drive an Aswang away, either by the swearing itself or the noise. If it doesn't work, well, at least you can give the creature a good cussing out before it eats you. So far, every creature has been just a little bit worse than the one before it, so naturally I save the absolute worst for last. A monster grosser than a Bao and more predatory than a whack-whack. Let's do this. The Manananggal is another vampiric monster, but with a difference. During the day it appears to be a normal human woman. It has no bad smell like a baobab and is difficult to detect in that form, but shamans and babalans are able to do so. Naturally, a sensible Manananggal would try to avoid them. Everyone else would be none the wiser. Its true nature is only revealed as night falls. The Manananggal will slip into the woods and find a place to hide the part of itself that it doesn't use to hunt, said part being the entire lower half of its body at the waist. The Manananggal will then literally tear itself apart. The lower half stays hidden, while its upper body grows a pair of bat-like wings and flies away in search of its prey, its entrails twisting in the wind behind it like a ghastly parody of a bird's tail. Like the Wak-Wak, the Manananggal's favorite prey is pregnant women, but there the similarity ends. While the Wak-Wak would simply rip its prey apart, the Manananggal is more delicate. It has a long, hollow tongue which it uses to pierce the sleeping woman's womb and both devour the fetus and drink the woman's blood. In extreme cases, it would also devour the heart and other organs of the mother. Both victims were usually destroyed, though sometimes the mother survived, if barely. After which the Manananggal would fly back to the rest of its body, tuck its entrails back in like you'd tuck in your shirt, and reattach itself. Then it would simply walk home, looking for all the world like a young woman returning from a midnight stroll. Identifying the true nature of a Manananggal attack is a tricky business. Often there would be few external signs visible, save possibly a small puncture wound. Even if the mother did survive, she would be in a weakened state, both physically and spiritually, and usually had no idea what had happened to her. Naturally, if it was determined that she was no longer pregnant but had never left her bedroom, then a Manananggal attack would be the logical conclusion. Once you knew you were dealing with a Manananggal, destroying it was simple, just not easy. The best method required locating its lower half, which was the only real place it was vulnerable. This required a great deal of courage because you would also be doing an extensive search at a time when the creature was most active. Yet if anyone did manage to find its lower half before the Manananggal found them, all they had to do was place salt and ashes on the lower body. Once this was done, the Manananggal would be unable to pull itself back together, and by sunrise the creature would be no more. Until then, however, you still had an angry vampiric monster to deal with. As I said, simple, not easy. Feel free to disagree, but in my opinion, the Manananggal is clearly the worst of a very bad lot.